Overpaying for anything sucks, especially socks, so why pay $45 for a single pair of grip socks when you can spend less than half? Pure Grip Socks Pro feature our best materials for optimal fit, moisture wicking, and performance at a fair price, just $16.99 a pair at puregripsocks.com.
Laceless boots. At this point, you either love them or hate them, but there is one thing that has remained true since they've become popular, and that is that a good pair of laceless boots costs a pretty big chunk of money. That is, until now. Sort of. And that's because the New Balance Tekela V4 Magia, almost looking like Magista if you squint a little bit, retails for just $140, which is by no means inexpensive, but in comparison to the budget-friendly options from the 3 stripes, which are gonna run you $100, you would be so much better off spending $140 on these compared to $100 on those. With the Magia, in my opinion, being the first ever budget-friendly or takedown model laceless football boot that is actually worth your time. And of course, I'm going to talk about why I think that in today's video. So if you're interested in a pair of laceless boots but don't have $275+ to spend, stick around, watch the video. We'll go over the details, including how they fit and feel on feet. And if you are by chance interested in a pair for yourself, I would definitely check out the first link down below. That's going to take you to the review page on my website, where you'll be able to pick these up below their normal retail price by way of some exclusive SR4U coupon codes. If you enjoy reviews on takedown models, drop a like on this video. That lets me know you want to see more. And if you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button along with the little bell notification so you get notified when my next new video goes live. Now, I feel like I've talked about this a lot recently, but I think the key to a good takedown model is one that retains as many features and characteristics of the top-end model as possible, where obviously you expect the more expensive version to feel better. And in the case of the Tekela, the V4 Pro is definitely better, and in my opinion, the best laceless football boot currently on the market, which in its own right at $215 rather than $275+ for the Adidas alternatives, it is actually a really good value too. With that said, if you're on a tighter budget, I definitely think the Magia has a lot on offer, especially if you're looking for that premium laceless football boot experience, something that I don't think you get from any other laceless takedown model aside from these. Now you'll notice on the upper, it does feature the Hypo-Knit branding, but the upper is very clearly quite a bit different from what you'll find on the top end model, at least visually, because from a feel and pliability perspective, while I definitely don't think it's as premium feeling, I do think it's very sock-like, it's soft, it's flexible, it has a nice padded liner on the inside, and it's a textile-based synthetic material, so it's going to have that kind of knitted sensation that you expect from something that looks so much like a pair of socks. If anything, it kind of has Magista Obra 1 vibes in terms of the thickness and padded feel to the upper, which I don't think many people will dislike. You're also going to notice some texturing here on the medial and lateral side, which effectively does nothing, just like it does on the top end pair. But of course, most importantly, the laceless system, which more or less remains very similar, if not identical, to what you're going to find on the top end model, where you can see it features the same pattern that looks quite flat, but up close you can see there's some minor detail and there's quite a bit of tension coming from this material. And the fact that it's been positioned slightly to the medial side, I'm convinced works better from a lockdown perspective. It's kind of placed right on that big bone across the top of your foot, which is actually the most rigid part of your foot, doing the least amount of movement. And I just think that that works really nicely from a lockdown perspective with a laceless design. Granted, the material, I would argue, is a little bit stiffer than what you're going to find on the top end model. Certainly in the collar, it's not quite as detailed as far as the pattern is concerned, but it still wraps your ankle very closely and gives you that very secure sensation on your feet, which is pretty much all you can ask for from a pair of laceless football boots that you don't have the ability to adjust, which, speaking of which, New Balance is the only brand that offers their boots in regular as well as wide fit. So if you find that you do have wider feet and laceless football boots don't typically work for you, but you really want a pair, getting these in wide fit at the lower price point, it's the only boot that gives you that option. At the rear, you're going to find an internal plastic heel counter, which isn't overly rigid, something that I think actually lends itself well to a laceless pair of football boots. The heel liner is disappointingly a mesh material, which I typically associate with much less expensive football boots. However, it's probably the nicest mesh heel liner I've ever felt to the touch, as well as against my heels. It feels very rugged and premium. Then the insole, fully removable. I'll give you guys a quick look at that. It, of course, features a mesh liner on the surface, and then is made from a single layer of black foam, pretty well identical to what you're going to find on the top end model. Which brings us to the base of the Magia, where you'll notice that it does look different from what you'll find on the Pro model. However, it's not unfamiliar in that it's the high-end sole plate and stud pattern taken from the previous generation of Tekela, now at the $140 price point, which is something that I love that New Balance is doing with their takedown models. This feels like something that would be on a $200+ football boot, and that's because it has been on a $200+ football boot before. It's flexible, it's solid underfoot, and the stud pattern, this being the FG variation, is pretty straightforward as far as layout is concerned. Very similar to what you're going to find from an Adidas product, in that you have the 3 studs along either side of the forefoot, 1 support stud, and then 4 under the heel. The studs themselves kind of having this almost square shape to them, but with rounded edges, so it has a little bit more of a traditional feel. If you're looking for super aggressive traction, you're not necessarily getting it here, and I don't think there's any one element about the sole plate that stands out from a feel or performance standpoint, but in terms of being really well-rounded and of course above average in terms of quality for football boots in this mid-range price point, I don't think there's too much to be upset about here. Which brings us to the weight, where I thought it'd be fun to compare the Magia to a top-end Adidas alternative, also their control boot offering, the Predator Edge Plus, both in the same size, 9.5 US. We'll start off with the Preds, and you can see that they weigh in at 9.3 ounces, the equivalent of 263 grams. Keep in mind that this is a $275 football boot, where the Magia at $140 weighs in at 7.6 ounces, the equivalent of 216 grams. And granted, paying more money doesn't necessarily always mean you're going to get a lighter product, and the Pred Edge by no means is trying to be super light. But side by side, for effectively double the price, you're getting a football boot in the Magia that is significantly lighter, and if you're even comparing it to the more expensive V4 Pro, kudos to New Balance for doing this. These are actually a couple grams lighter than those. Goes to show you that sometimes paying more money doesn't always result in objectively a better product, depending on what you're looking at, of course. On feet, I have to say I'm really impressed with the Magia. It doesn't feel that different from the Pro, which obviously retails for $215 rather than $140, but in terms of giving you that laceless sock-like fit with decent lockdown and overall pretty good comfort, there's really not much to complain about here. The upper is soft, it's flexible, the sole plate works well with the laceless design. The laceless system itself, being pushed slightly to the medial side, I think actually works really well. It holds a decent amount of tension, and the mid-cut collar wraps your ankle very closely, which I also really like. Even the heel liner, I complained about it being mesh, it actually feels really nice, and it seems to have the perfect amount of padding in there to keep your heel both comfortable as well as secure as possible. Granted, from a lockdown and responsiveness perspective, just like pretty much every other laceless football boot, it's not the best. You're still going to find that movement when making quick cuts and hard changes of direction, but in general, if you like the feel of a pair of laceless football boots, this is definitely in the top 3 of what's out there right now in terms of quality of fit as well as lockdown. Speaking of fit, when it comes to width, I'm wearing these in the regular width variation, which I think will be suitable for most people, but if you do have really wide feet, it's very nice that New Balance does make these in a wide fit option. So if you can't typically fit in laceless football boots, the wide fit version of these should work for you really nicely. And as far as sizing is concerned, I'm wearing these in my usual size 9.5 US, and the fit and the length is perfect. So if you're looking to order a pair, I would strongly recommend going true to size in order to achieve the best possible fit. So, in conclusion, if you are on a budget and absolutely must have a pair of laceless football boots, I would very, very, very strongly urge you to stay away from from all of the $100 options from Adidas and consider the $140 New Balance Tekela V4 Magia. When it comes to the quality of fit, lockdown, and even just the experience of playing in a pair of laceless football boots, I think these are, regardless of their price tag, one of the better laceless football boots currently on the market. They compare more closely to the top-end laceless offerings from Adidas than they do to the takedown models. The takedown ones that they make, honestly, they're just not worth your time. And obviously, I think the pro version of the Tekela is the one to have this year. It's definitely a better football boot, but I honestly have to say I'm very, very surprised at how close these actually come. With all that said, as great as I think these are as laceless boots, unless you absolutely must have football boots without laces, I don't necessarily think that these are going to be worth the $140 price tag. If anything, hang on a little bit. These just came out. They're New Balance. They're not that popular. They're going to go on sale, and you'll probably be able to get them for $100, if not just under that, very, very soon. But objectively, if you're just looking for the best possible product for around $140, there are definitely better options out there. However, this is definitely the best one without any laces.